the remaining 6, one of them is moot. I mean, that there's really, it's not relevant anymore. Which one is that? No, that's still pretty relevant, I think. It's still pretty relevant. Which one is irrelevant in the sense that there's no opportunity for the president, little or no opportunity for the president to exercise that power?
Special session?
Yeah, the power to convene Congress in special sessions. And the reason that that's a moot power is because Congress is pretty much in session all the time anyway. So there's really no opportunity. I couldn't tell you, honestly couldn't tell you when the last time a president called Congress into a special session. Congress is pretty much a year-round institution now. So we're going to, we can take that one off. That's a moot issue. So we're left with 5, right? Now, the 5 that are remaining, they're further limited. This is a short list to begin with, but the 5 that are remaining, they have to be shared with some other branch of government, particularly Congress. So, for example, we talked a little bit about the commander-in-chief thing, right? The president's power as commander-in-chief is counterbalanced by some power vested in Congress, which is the power to declare war. By the way, it's, I think, worth noting that the original language in the Constitution before it was changed in the debates in the Philadelphia Convention, the original language is the power to make war. Congress will have the power to make war. I think that's revealing. So in addition to the power to declare war, Congress also has the power to raise and support armies and navies. If, for example, why is that significant? The power to raise and, what does that mean, by the way, raise and support armies and navies?
To create an army and to train it.
And to fund it, right? To fund it. So what counterbalancing power does Congress have if the president, as commander-in-chief, gets American military forces involved in some place, some war-making situation that Congress doesn't approve of? Presumably they can do what? They can cut off the funding, right? Constitutionally. It's not likely to happen politically, but I mean, that's just not. If you're a member of Congress and you vote to not fund the president's request, you're in trouble politically, don't you think? I mean, you're going to be accused of what? Not supporting the troops. That's the worst. That's the kiss of death politically if you're a member of Congress, not supporting the troops. What?
That was used against Kerry.
How about the power as chief executive? What power does Congress have to counterbalance that? Well, the legislative power. Like if Congress doesn't believe that the president's faithfully executing the law, well, that issue aside, they can, but presumably, remember we talked about that the president can only be impeached for criminal misconduct, right? And not faithfully executing the law. I mean, that's really questionable whether or not that's criminal misconduct. It might be a dereliction of duty, but whether that's criminal or not, and therefore subject to impeachment, it would just have to be tested. But the more likely power that Congress is to use would be just to use the legislative process, right? If they don't think that the president is faithfully executing the law, then they can write new law providing stricter parameters. I'll give you an example of that. In 1974, Congress passed a very important bill, a very important law over President Nixon's veto. Nixon vetoed it and then Congress overrode the veto. It was called the Congressional Budget Impoundment Control Act. And the reason that Congress passed that law was because Nixon had sort of gone off the deep end using a power that presidents had assumed before him, but he just kind of got carried away with it. It's called the impoundment power. That means that Congress would appropriate money for a program, and then the president would just refuse to spend it. He would impound the money, because he would claim, oh, the chief executive, I have the power to impound these funds. I'm just not going to spend the money. Right? Well, Congress got kind of ticked off at Nixon for doing that, right? So they wrote legislation really restricting the president's ability to impound funds. And Nixon, as I said, Nixon vetoed it, and then Congress overrode the veto. And we don't really talk much about presidents impounding funds anymore because the Congress used its legislative power to counteract the president's executive authority.